Alright, so I'm working on my next big review right now, but I haven't had much time to, so here's a smaller analysis type video for now. And yes, I'm aware this video is pretty dang short, but guess what? You're just gonna have to deal with it. Okay, survival horror. I've heard a lot of debates about what games can and cannot be considered survival horror, and I think it's a really dumb argument. People saying things like Amnesia isn't really survival horror because it's more stealth and running more than anything with no combat. Or saying that Tattletale isn't really a survival horror game either because your objective is simply to avoid Mama and that's it. What most people consider survival horror are things like games from the Resident Evil and Silent Hill franchise, Alien Isolation, The Evil Within, etc. But what most people don't consider is what survival means. And before I continue, I know all this doesn't sound that important, like it's basically just being petty, but I'm a horror game enthusiast, and these things matter to me, so let's continue. I bet most people don't know all of these dumb arguments can be disclosed once and for all with a simple Google search. So let's see what the definition of survival is. The state or fact of continuing to live or exist typically in a spite of an accident, ordeal, or difficult circumstance. Continuing to live or exist in spite of difficult circumstances. Following this logic, almost every game is a survival horror game. Unless your game is a jump scare simulator or something like that, any horror game is survival horror. Yomawari Night Alone, you're trying to stealth past enemies in difficult circumstances. In Tattletale, you're avoiding Mama in difficult circumstances. Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion, you're running and attacking monsters in difficult circumstances. So there you have it. Unless your game is an on-rails experience or a jump scare simulator, as long as you can do something to prevent your death, it's a survival horror game. Case closed. Well, I suppose I should mention why these debates exist in the first place. You see, back in 1996 when Resident Evil was released, which I'm actually playing the remake of right now on my Switch, it was basically the game to define survival horror right then and there. Collecting health items and ammo and knowing when and when not to conserve and use them. So when other survival horror games drifted farther away from that formula, it became a bit confusing. If Resident Evil defined survival horror, then did games that didn't follow that same formula anywhere as close, could they still be considered survival horror? Well, as we've discussed today, yes. Yes, they can be. For a comparison, Super Mario Bros. For its time basically set the standard for platformers, so if games like Sonic focused more on speed and maintaining that speed and less precise platforming, at least it was supposed to, then could Sonic still be considered a platformer? Well, duh. Even if it focuses on more of a specific part of that gameplay style, the same basic concept is still there, therefore it can still be considered a platformer. So long story short, people are stupid.